The winning blueprint presents.
Draft Zone.
Welcome to the Draft Zone. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the draft game. Here with the New York Giants, who hold the 19th pick in the 2013 NFL Draft. And what the draft game is a look back at draft history. It's a look back at a specific team, in this case, the New York Giants, and a specific pick in the draft, in this case, the 19th overall selection. And what we like to do here is take a specific time period, and in this case, it's a 13-year time frame from years 2000 to 2012, and look at the draft history of the New York Giants selecting in the first round and the 19th pick overall. And what we'll do is grade out each player drafted in that time frame by the New York Giants in the first round and at the 19th overall selection, give them a grade using our baseball grading scale, single, double, triple, home run, and an occasional strikeout, average it up together and come up with an aggregate score that allows us to kind of project what the New York Giants might do with the 19th overall selection. Now, of course, history is not a direct indicator as to what will occur at the 19th pick for the Giants. However, history does give us some sort of indication as to what normally occurs at that pick, and so we do have to take that into consideration. So, looking at the Giants and what they've been able to do in the draft and looking at the 19th overall selection, we'll kind of look at that and see if the Giants will repeat that history or will they buck that trend and get a really good player that upgrades that pick. So I'll be using this spreadsheet that you see in front of you that I have that has every single first round pick made in the last 13 years on it. And I'll use this to grade out the players as well as the Giants players in the first round, talk about them, give them a grade, and see what we come up with. So without any further ado, let's start with the year 2000 and the 19th overall selection. And you look at the 19th overall selection in 2000, and it's Shea Alexander. What a great career he had. But I was never a Shea Alexander fan. And not because I did not like him or his game. I just thought that he wasn't a special back. I thought that Shea Alexander benefited from a stellar offensive line. I thought that just about any back with any kind of skill behind that offensive line could have had an illustrious career as well. Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson on that left side used to cave in defensive lines, used to cave in defenses. I mean, some of the holes that Shea Alexander had to run behind were ridiculous. Dump truck holes that Mack trucks could drive through. I mean, they took care of business on that left side, and all Shea Alexander had to do was follow the daylight. And so I don't want to diminish his career too much because you still have to be able to run the football, find the holes, make the correct cuts and reads. But it's not hard when these guys move the line of scrimmage 4 or 5 yards up the field and give you the space that you need to work. And so Shea Alexander had a very productive career, but I think a lot of it was due to the offensive line that was in front of him. But nonetheless, Shea Alexander was a triple in this league throughout his career. You look at the 19th overall selection in 2001, Casey Hampton, selected by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, at the nose tackle position, Casey Hampton is what you're looking for if you're looking for a guy to stop the run. Casey Hampton was never a pass rushing nose tackle. And most times, nose tackles aren't guys that are going to get after the quarterback. And in special cases, you'll get the rare breed that can do both, stop the run and get after the quarterback. But in most instances, nose tackles are guys that just eat up space. Casey Hampton is a dying breed. They don't make them like Casey Hampton anymore. Guys that just take up space, is a road grader, not really looking to do anything other than just get in the way and stop a run from happening up the middle of the field. Casey Hampton was a guy that could play all three downs, but he's basically a two-down defensive lineman at this point of his career. Casey Hampton has been extremely solid throughout his career, a really big force in the Pittsburgh Steelers defense for a decade. He's a triple. I think he played his position well in Pittsburgh and did his job to the best of his abilities, and he really helped this Steelers defense be one of the most dominant forces over the last decade. Casey Hampton, a triple. You look at 2002, 19th overall selection, goes to the Denver Broncos. They select receiver out of Hawaii, Ashley Lally. I always had big hopes for Ashley Lally. I always thought that he had the body type of a really big-time receiver in this league. 6'4", kind of slender, never really had that physical build you're looking for, but at 6'4", with the athletic ability that he had, I thought he should have been better than what he was, but Ashley Lally just never really had that breakout stretch in his career that I was looking for. He'd have a great season here or there, but never a consistent receiver. And that's what I look for, consistency. And Ashley Lally was anything but consistent, and so he's a single in this league. You look at 2003, the Baltimore Ravens select Cal Bowler, quarterback out of Cal. And I have a problem with Cal Bowler because he got a coach fired. And when you draft a quarterback and you put your franchise on this quarterback, it's the responsibility of that quarterback to get it done. Find a way. And no, the Ravens didn't have the best talent on their football teams, but Cal Bowler didn't make anyone around him better. And Brian Billick suffered because of it. This is a Super Bowl winning coach, an offensive-minded head coach that never could seem to get his offense off the ground because of guys like Cal Bowler. And Cal Bowler never was anything but a backup in this league. Barely serviceable in that capacity. I think Cal Bowler's a strikeout. I tried to find a way to give him a single, and I probably could have if I wanted to, but I don't. I think Cal Bowler is a strikeout, and I'm striking Cal Bowler out in 2003 at the 19th overall selection. You look at 2004, Vernon Carey, offensive tackle, Miami, to the Dolphins out of the University of Miami. And he was okay in the league. Nothing special, not exactly solid. Okay, when you're okay, you're a single. You look at 2005, offensive tackle again, this time St. Louis Rams draft, Alex Barron. And for me, the inconsistency of his career is what leads me to make him a single. The Cowboys went and needed to start Alex Barron in a pinch after he left St. Louis. And they realized very quickly that Alex Barron isn't a guy that you can start in this league. And that's been his career in a nutshell. A guy that you can't start for an extended period of time. If you need this guy to fill in for a week or maybe two, that's fine. But to ask this guy to start 4 or more games for you, blasphemy. And so Alex Barron is just a single in this league. You look at 2006, Antonio Cromartie, corner, out of Florida State, drafted by the San Diego Chargers. Chargers rolled the dice here. He was injured coming into the draft. Chargers liked what they saw, took a chance on a 6'2" corner that was extremely athletic, and it panned out. Here's a guy that had a 10 interception year once before. He's the guy that makes plays on the football. He's very athletic. He's long. He can do it all on the football field. The problem is he does not tackle. And at times, doesn't even care to tackle. And I have a problem with that. Even though Antonio Cromartie can do everything on the field, I think he's just as athletically gifted as any corner in the league. I think that he has to focus sometimes on just the small things. And maybe you don't make a tackle, but slow the guy down, hold him up, wait for the cavalry to come. But don't just allow guys to run by you. We've seen him do it time and time again. I have to dock him for that. He probably could easily be a triple in this league. I mean, his production screams triple, but I'm making him a double because of the lack of the want to tackle. So you look at 2007. Michael Griffin, safety out of Texas, drafted by the Tennessee Titans. Solid player. I like Michael Griffin a lot. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think he's a really solid player. I think he's undervalued sometimes. Yes, he makes mistakes sometimes, but he makes his fair share of plays out there in Tennessee. He's a rare combination of speed, size, and the ability to make plays on the football. So he can hit, he can tackle, and there's a difference between hitting and tackling. He can do both, and he can make plays on the football. I like Michael Griffin a lot. I think he's a solid pick. I think he's been a triple to this point in his career in Tennessee. Look at 2008. 19th overall selection goes to the Carolina Panthers, who select Pitt tackle Jeff Otai. It just never worked. Whether it was injuries, inconsistencies, it just never worked. The injuries really is what Jeff Otai's career succumbed to. But Jeff Otai was never the guy the Panthers thought they were getting. They never envisioned it working out the way it did with Jeff Otai in 2009. And he's a strikeout. Simply put, he is an out strikeout. And so the injuries, the inconsistencies, they couldn't even trade this guy correctly. They tried to trade him. He failed his physical. He's out of the league. Jeff Otai strikeout in 2008. You look at Jeremy Maclin, receiver, drafted out of Missouri by the Philadelphia Eagles. I like Jeremy Maclin a lot. He hasn't had a 1,000-yard season yet, and I think he's waiting to explode, but he's been a consistent guy, never having less than 700 yards receiving in any season in his career to this point. He's been extremely solid, and when you're extremely solid, you're a double. You look at 2010, Sean Witherspoon, 19th overall selection to the Atlanta Falcons out of Missouri. Again, 19th overall selection being a pick out of Missouri. This time on the defensive side of football, this time a linebacker. And I think Sean Witherspoon has really been one of the biggest contributors on the Atlanta Falcons defense over the last 3 seasons. He's definitely their best player in the front seven. And I think that Sean Witherspoon has the ability to be one of the better linebackers in this league. I think he needs to take that next step, however. But he's a guy that can get you over 100 tackles. He's a guy that can make plays on the football, force fumbles. I think he just needs to be a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more instinctive. But I like Sean Witherspoon. I like his game a lot. I think he's a guy that can move sideline to sideline. Sean Witherspoon right now for me is a double and a very solid one in this league to this point. You look at 2011, 19th overall selection. Cornerback Prince Amukamara, drafted by the Giants by way of Nebraska. So you look at Prince Amukamara and his career to this point, marred by injuries. Never really the consistent guy that the Giants thought they were getting, but that's due to the injuries. I think that when he plays and plays in stretches, sometimes he plays well. He's been benched. He's been cast aside at times because of the slowness of his production and progressiveness and progression because of the injuries. And so if he can just stay healthy, I think he'll come along faster. But he's not at the level that the Giants thought he should be at by this point in his career. But much of the injuries are to blame for that. And so Prince Amukamara right now is a single in this league. You look at 2012, 19th overall selection goes to the Chicago Bears. They select Shea McClellin, defensive end out of Boise State. And look, this is a guy that I thought would come in and be sort of a project. I didn't think that he lacked the skills. I didn't think he was raw or anything like that. Just there were guys in front of him that could be more productive than he could be coming into the Chicago Bears locker room right away. Israel Adonijah is a guy that you can count on. He got you to about 7 sacks in 2012. You look at Julius Peppers. We know what he has been throughout his career And so there's just guys in front of Shea McClellin that could get it done. I didn't think Shea McClellin could come in and get you 7 sacks, which is what Israel Adonijah got you in 2012. And so he's going to have to buy his time, learn from the best. You got Julius Peppers right there in front of you. Learn from the best, and when your opportunity presents itself, Shea McClellin needs to come in and get it done. Right now, he's just a single in this league. And that's the 19th overall selection over the last 13 years. You average these scores up, you get a total of a single. It's not a very solid single. It's just a single. And you get a couple of strikeouts here in Ota and Bowler, a lot of singles, no home runs, a few triples, and that's what you get, a single at the 19th overall selection. Let's see what the Giants do in their drafting history in the first round and see if they can elevate this single to a double, or will this pick just simply be a single at 19 over time in history. So you look at 2000 for the Giants, first round selection, running back Ron Dayne, the great Dane, the Dane train, Ron Dayne, out of Wisconsin. And this guy came into the league with plenty of fanfare, plenty of hype, won the Heisman Trophy, was Mr. Do-It-All at Wisconsin. But he was supposed to be part of a backfield that was thunder and lightning with Tiki Barber. It just never really materialized. The coaching staff wasn't a big fan of his. Jim Fossil thought that he needed to lose weight. Ron Dayne liked his weight the way it was. It wasn't a good marriage in New York for Ron Dayne. And for whatever reason, he wasn't seen as a part of the future. Tom Coughlin comes in, and Dayne thinks he's going to get an opportunity, and he never really does. And he was gone. Had a little successful stint in Houston, but for what he was supposed to be, it wasn't even close. Ron Dayne is single in this league. You look at 2001, New York Giants draft cornerback Will Allen out of Syracuse. I actually liked Will Allen a lot, and I thought that he was a solid player for the Giants. He had a very long career, but he never did anything. And I was disappointed by that. I just thought Will Allen would be better than what he was. He had all the physical tools, wasn't the biggest guy, but could run, could make plays on the football. I just thought he would be better than what he was. But he just turned out to be okay. And when you're okay, you're a single. But over a long period of time, he was okay. I guess you could vouch for a double for this guy, but I just think he's a single. You look at 2002, Jeremy Shockey. He came into the league and took it by storm. I mean, he was jumping over guys, snagging down footballs. I remember he had a big game against the Eagles, jumping over Dawkins in the end zone and coming down with the football. Shockey came in the league and was a force for the Giants at the tight end position. His toughness, it reminded a lot of Giants fans of Mark Bavaro. He just looked like a giant tight end. And he was solid in this league for many years. The injuries kind of shortened his career and made him less of a dominant force. But Jeremy Shockey was a double in this league. Look at 2003. William Joseph, defensive tackle, taken by the Giants. Look, he was an ordinary tackle in this league. A guy that was on that defensive line, had his moments, but never was consistently good in this league. Just a okay tackle. One of the guys on the defensive line. Just a body up front. William Joseph, a single in this league. You look at 2004. This is the Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning trade year. You technically drafted Phillip Rivers, but I'm going with the quarterback that's on the roster that you got in that trade in Eli Manning. It's a home run. It's a no-doubter. That ball might still be flying right now. May not have landed. Eli Manning is an absolute no-doubter tape measure shot. He's been everything you thought you were getting and then some. I actually thought that Eli Manning was overrated coming into the league. Was not overly impressed. And I guess it was because I was comparing him to his big brother, Peyton, and I didn't see anything that I saw in Peyton. Peyton's a very boisterous leader that is in your face. Not all the time, not to the degree that he's going to really make teammates mad or turn anyone off, but he's a guy that will let you know, look, this needs to be done. He's a perfectionist. And Eli is the direct opposite. Quiet, kind of aloof at times. You look at him, and it seems like maybe he's not all there sometimes, but that's just part of his aura. That's just part of who Eli Manning is. He gets it. And you say what you want about Eli Manning, man, I used to always give him grief about the no-look pass. I call it the no-look Eli Manning special, when he's in the pocket and the heat is coming and he's staring down the gun barrel and he just turns his head and chucks it. But Eli Manning, everything he does, there's a method to his madness. And you say what you want about Eli Manning. Say what you want. Game on the line, there's not many quarterbacks in the league better than Eli Manning. I started calling him fourth quarter Manning, because when it's the fourth quarter, Eli Manning plays his best football. We've seen it over the course of his career. There's a reason why he's a two-time Super Bowl champion to this point. Eli Manning is an absolute tape shot measure, no doubt, home run in this league in 2004. You look at 2005, no first-round pick, as you traded that to San Diego to get Eli Manning on your football team. You look at 2006, Matthias Kiwanuka, linebacker out of Boston College. Solid pick. I thought that Matthias Kiwanuka wasn't exactly what you thought you were getting out of Boston College. Anytime you make a first-round pick, you're looking to get a guy that's elite. He's not been elite in his career, but he's been extremely solid. And when you're extremely solid, you are a double. And that's what I think Matthias Kiwanuka has been to this point in his career. You look at 2007, Aaron Ross, cornerback out of Texas. Look, Aaron Ross has been okay. He had a chance to be solid. He decided to chase dollars and get a big payday in Jacksonville. It did not work out in Jacksonville. He came running back to the Giants, and they allowed him to come back with open arms. He's going to have to prove his worth now back in New York. We'll see how that goes, but right now he's a single. You look at 2008, Kenny Phillips. And as much as Kenny Phillips should be a double, he has triple talent, the injuries state that he's a single. And when Kenny Phillips is in the lineup and he's consistently playing, he's a double, easily. And Kenny Phillips is a guy that can make plays. He's big, he's long, he's 6'2", not afraid to tackle, can make plays on the football, very athletic, but he's always injured. It seems like right when Kenny Phillips is getting in the groove, he gets injured. Now he's no longer a Giant, as he has now moved on. He's now a Philadelphia Eagle. We'll see what he does with the Eagles. But Kenny Phillips, for me, is a single because of the injuries. If he's able to stay healthy, this is a no-doubter. He's a double. You look at 2009. Here's another guy with injury problems. But he's been extremely productive despite the injuries in Hakeem Nicks, the receiver out of North Carolina. Hakeem Nicks came into this league, and I thought that he was the same type of receiver like a Kenny Britt. And it proved to be right. Kenny Britt is an extremely athletic receiver, much like Hakeem Nicks is. Both of them have injury issues, cannot stay on the field. But Kenny Britt is a guy that gets in trouble off the field, and his production on the field is marred by the injuries. Hakeem Nicks doesn't get in trouble off the field. His problems are just staying healthy on it. And when he's healthy, he's a force. We saw him help key the Giants in that 2011 Super Bowl run by the Giants. And he was a huge catalyst for them winning the Super Bowl. Had some big games down the stretch. And so Hakeem Nicks, when healthy, is a force. He's a double. Should be a triple, but he's a double because he cannot stay healthy right now. You look at 2010. Jason Pierre-Paul. JPP. Jason Pierre-Paul. Look, this guy has home run talent. The physical gifts, the raw ability cannot be denied. You look at him, and he's chiseled. We're talking 6'5", 275, 285, runs like a deer, hits like a truck, has the athletic ability to get around the corner. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, but fast at the same time. We've seen the tape. We've all seen the YouTube video of him doing about 12 backflips in a row. What guy at 6'5", 285 can do 12 backflips in a row? I mean, that's the athletic gift that he's been blessed with. But the production sometimes is sketchy. First season, 6.5 sacks. Second year, 19.5 sacks. Third year, 5.5 sacks. So what is Jason Pierre-Paul? The 19.5 sack season right now has him at a double because it's hard to get 19.5 sacks in this league. You don't just wake up and get 19.5 sacks. You got to be good. You can get lucky and have a 10 sack season. You don't get lucky and get 19.5 sacks. You got to be really good to do that. And so the potential is there. I need to see more consistency. He's a double right now. Let's see what he does moving forward. Look at 2011. Prince Amukamara, corner out of Nebraska. He's a single. Simply put, the injuries have not allowed him to be anything other than a single in his career to this point. Look at 2012. David Wilson, running back out of Virginia Tech. Sky's the limit for this guy. And he's going to get the workload in 2013. They let go of Ahmad Bradshaw, who was their workhorse in New York. And so it's all David Wilson's show now. He's the star. What is he going to do? Will the director be yelling cut? Or will he be up for a Grammy nomination with this performance? We'll see what David Wilson has in store for the Giants in 2013 and moving forward. But the guy has speed to burn. Can he hold on to the ball? He had fumbling issues early in his career in New York, and he had fumbling issues in college at Virginia Tech. So we'll see if he can secure the football and if he can be the dynamic runner that the Giants think they're getting when they drafted him in 2012. Right now, he's just a single. And that's the Giants draft history over the last 13 years. You tally it up, it's barely a single, much like the 19th overall selection is. And so it's a single for the Giants in the 19th overall selection. So history says you're supposed to draft a single at 19. There's no way you can draft a single at 19 if you're the Giants. You've got several needs that you need to address on your football team. To me, the first one that's glaring is linebacker. You lost Chase Blackburn. You let go of Michael Boley. You need linebacker help in the worst way. You re-signed Keith Rivers, and you went out and got Dan Connor. Both of those acquisitions and re-signings scream to me depth, not starters. You need help. And I think at 19, a guy that you can get that is very versatile, has some off-the-field issues, though, and so maybe that might scare you away, is Alec Ogletree, linebacker out of Georgia. This guy is a problem on the football field. Ex-safety, so he can cover if you put him on the weak side. If you want to move him inside, he can play the inside linebacker position, but I think he's more naturally an outside linebacker because he needs to stay clean. He's not the most physically imposing linebacker. He's not a guy that's going to get in there and mix it up with those big, nasty offensive linemen. He needs to be kept clean. And if he can be kept clean, I think he can be an absolute problem at the linebacker position. But if you're looking for a more traditional linebacker, someone like Arthur Brown out of Kansas State might be more of your liking, but you need a linebacker. At 19, I think you'll have a lot of defensive ends at your disposal. I can see a guy like Bjorn Warner being there at 19. A guy that I don't really like, but maybe you do. Demontre Moore could be there at 19. Probably will be. There's options at 19 at defensive end as well. You lose O.C. Umenyiora. Giants love drafting defensive ends. I could see you easily drafting a defensive end as well. But at the end of the day, I think you need a linebacker. You need to get value here at the linebacker position. If it's not going to be Alec Ogletree, then it needs to be Arthur Brown at the linebacker position, in my estimation. But the Giants need to be smart at 19. You need help defensively. Your defense was not as good as it's been in the past, and you need to be able to get after the quarterback. This was a lackluster year for pass rushing for the Giants. The Giants are a team that is predicated on getting pressure on the quarterback. They did not do so at the level that is expected of the New York Giants. They got to get back to that. And if drafting a defensive end will help you do that, then by all means, do that if you are the Giants. And that's going to be it for the Giants in the draft game.